Hey, it's Kia Kadam. Thanks for joining us. I'm here today with Dan Mark. He's a head of research at Labdoor.com, which is a third-party nutrition supplement testing company. So I'm really excited to have him on. And Dan, thanks for making the time to be on here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Dan, could you tell everyone a little bit about Labdoor and what your role is at Labdoor?
Yeah, sure. So what Labdoor really is a testing and research company, right? The idea for Labdoor grew out of one of our co-founders had an analytical chemistry lab, and a lot of the people that he worked with, a lot of manufacturers that he worked with, were companies coming to him for kind of like what I would call almost reactive testing, right? That's if a manufacturer is notified that something might be wrong in their product, in their lot, then they go out and have it tested. And his idea was, well, why not do that proactively? Why wait until there are known issues, right? So what we will end up doing is, testing different categories of products. My role here is really to oversee that whole pipeline, from the products that we choose, the categories that we end up testing, and then I kind of walk the products through the testing pipeline. So getting them shipped out to the lab, getting the data back, collecting that data, putting everything into the algorithms to generate our final grades. So it's a very broad scope, but that's basically what we do.
So I was reading on your website, you guys have some pretty cool investors on board as well.
Yeah, so I think one of our first investors was actually Mark Cuban, and then we've been in Y Combinator, or Rock Health as well. It's just it seems like a really good concept, right? I mean, I remember when I found these guys, it's hard to believe that this hasn't been done before, right? So I think whenever we tell people, they get super excited about it.
So there are other companies like Labdoor that do what you guys do, sort of. So there's NSF and USP and another company, Consumer Lab. So what's the difference between those companies and what Labdoor does?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we are a totally independent company. We are independent of taking money from manufacturers, that is, and we're free. So I think one of the great things about Labdoor is that you can come to our site, and without having to pay anything, you can access our full range of data. I think that's one of the things that makes us a really powerful tool for consumers.
Yeah, I personally use Labdoor quite a bit, and when clients are like, "Hey, I'm going to the grocery store or a supplement store, and there's all these different kinds of multivitamins or protein, which one should I buy?" It's pretty useful to be able to just send them a link to Labdoor and say, "Hey, just check out the ranking system on there, sort of, and make your own judgment."
Yeah, exactly. And I think we made the decision to become totally free about a year ago, after raising some money, and it just kind of flipped the company, right? Just getting the data to consumers, no paywalls, no barriers to entry.
So a while back, pretty recently, I first heard of something called amino spiking,
Yeah,
and that kind of made headlines in like forums on Facebook, and like a lot of big name YouTube personalities also spoke about it. So can
sure.
you tell me a little bit about what amino spiking is and why us consumers should be concerned?
Yeah, well, let's first talk about kind of the basics, right? So a protein is made up of, that typical building blocks, you call them, and those building blocks are amino acids. Amino acids contain nitrogen, right? So one of the tests that is currently used by the FDA and other organizations is called the Keldall method. Basically, it was a method developed by this chemist in 1800s. And what it does is it quantifies organic nitrogen content. So if all amino acids contain nitrogen, then you're basically quantifying, that kind of makes sense. However, you can fool the system, you can trick the system. And what you can do is, instead of adding protein, which contains the kind of optimal blend of amino acids, if you will, you can just add, which are kind of cheaper amino acids. It will boost nitrogen content. You will be able to put more protein on your label. However, that's not going to be beneficial for you.
How prevalent is that?
It's a good question. So I want to say in our data, we have about 75 protein products right now, and I believe we have 10 products that are spiked with over 5 to 10% concentration of free amino acids.
Would you say that's usually maybe the newer companies, the ones that don't have much funding, that kind of resort to those, or is that kind of across the board? Even the bigger companies have done that before.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. So we do only have 75 products. I don't know that that's a large enough sample set to really get kind of representative statistics. I think one tangential answer to your question there is that we small manufacturers out there currently, who My Protein, for example, is winning our protein rankings, our protein quality rankings. Mm-hmm. And these guys, when we met them, they were small. First, started talking to them. They were fairly small in the U.S. market, and fairly small company overall. But what we have seen is some of these fairly small companies end up doing one product really, really well. So whether that's protein or even, so I don't know that there's a correlation between like size and research and development money versus spiking.
Got it. Actually, one of the questions that came in from one of my friends on Facebook, he's a big My Protein fan, and the reason he's with them is because of, I think you guys have ranked them and tested their stuff as well.
Yeah.
So just a different topic, but so I guess not a different topic, but sort of along the same lines. So bigger companies that are well established, that have solid marketing behind them, they don't see much of a reason to get third-party certification through NSF, USP, or Labdoor. So what I'm trying to say is that should we still trust those bigger companies, and is there a way that we're still ensuring that if we're buying from them, that their quality is where the label says it is?
Yeah, sure. Man, I feel like I could talk for an hour about this, right? Yeah, there's a lot of things that go here. I'll meet some people. We regularly go to trade shows, and the Arnold and supply side for manufacturer trade shows even. And you do meet people who are just so ingrained in these big name products, right? Maybe it's because their products sponsor their favorite athlete or whatever have you. For us, we don't really give certifications per se. We have one certification right now that's a Tested for Sport certification. And that's just going to make sure that your product is free of any banned substances per the list. What we really do is, test a category of products and then rank them based on each other. I think there's, we kind of always talk a lot about kind of other rating companies and how we fit into this. And I kind of see it a lot as like almost Yelp, right? I'm sure that Applebee's and the Cheesecake Factory and Red Lobster, they probably spend a ton of money on marketing, right? Those are your classic companies. And sure, they have some pretty good food, across the board. If you want one specific thing instead of something that's fairly average, you want one specific niche product, there are manufacturers out there doing that. I guess at the end of the day, we just, want to get data to a consumer so that they can make their own informed decisions and go with a product from a big manufacturer that scored fairly well in our rankings. Then, that's what they can do too, right?
Sure. The reason I asked that was because I'm not sure if this paper was published or not, but it was in 2015 by Lamella et al. That measured the BCAA content in some supplements like Cellucor on GNC and muscle milk that showed that the BCAA content was actually less than what was on the label. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I haven't seen that study specifically, but to be honest with you, it doesn't really surprise me. I haven't seen this study on BCAAs. There's a lot of studies out there on probiotics, on multivitamins. I think what needs to happen is we as consumers kind of need to make that stand, right? And this is a huge industry. We're going up against I've seen numbers, a $34 billion industry in 1 year alone. So until we can kind of come together and make that stand, tell these manufacturers that this is not okay, because when we buy these supplements, we're putting our faith in them, right?
Yep.
I'm buying a BCA so that I can go from that 225 bench to 275, right? That's the promise that these guys are selling me. Just want to make sure they can deliver.
So, I just have the tub of protein here.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the Labdoor or NSF brand or branding stamp on it, but it says it's manufactured in a GMP good manufacturing practice facility with ingredients that are tested free of heavy metals, contaminants, artificial flavors, lactose, and gluten. Sure. What does that mean?
Yeah, so GMPs, it stands for good manufacturing process. In the chemistry side of things, we have something called GLPs, good laboratory practices. And basically what it is kind of just like a first level approach to helping a consumer build trust in that product. So, what that says to me is that, at least whatever brand this is, at least these guys are taking time to test their product, taking time to, kind of abide by the GMP rules. I would say it's a good start, but, I would say, adding some of those other certifications in there, would be a next step as well.
What does GMP tell me as a consumer that if it says it has X amount of protein, like 20 grams of protein, it has 20 grams of protein in it?
No, it's not going to tell you that. Yeah, GMPs, it's really just going to say that, the product was tested internally for, for maybe quality. I don't know if they're doing quality testing, but at least like heavy metals. So at least you're not going to be going over your lead intake in a single day, from that supplement alone.
Well, that's good to know. So how do you guys stay unbiased with all the, I'm sure there's, with your reports when you come out, there's probably big companies coming at you and saying, hey, like.
Yeah, so we've definitely gotten, those emails from big companies, right? And I think there's two things at play here. One of them is just what we do is purely science. It's purely chemistry, right? We abide by what's called AOAC or USP methods. So these are methods that have been developed and approved by big name analytical chemistry associations. So basically, we as Labdoor have facts on our side. However, we're always open to talking to those manufacturers, the ones that are emailing us. We will retest their products. Sometimes they have interesting formulations that they have developed testing methods for. So sometimes we talk to them about that. But mainly what's allowing us to stay unbiased is, we're totally independent. We're venture backed, just raised a Series A round of funding. So really not beholden to anyone for money.
Have any companies modified their product after seeing the lab results?
Yeah, so we've actually, I want to say in the past 3 or 4 months, yeah, we've had a few companies, maybe 2 or 3, that have seen our results, initially questioned them, and then move towards modifying their product. Usually what it is it's a person who is working with a manufacturer to then manufacture a product for them. So they might be a little less in the loop. These big name companies like a Cellcore, which does everything on site. So honestly, what we have seen is what would amount to miscommunications between what would be called like brand owners versus a manufacturer. But
So have you guys ever found banned substances, such as like illegal ingredients or stuff that just was completely not even on the label in the products?
yeah, so we don't test all of our products for banned substances. We have a tested for sport certification right now, which if you submit a product to me, I can tell you this product is free of everything from hegemine to cocaine, right? So those are all on the World Anti-Doping Association lists. We only run products through that testing protocol if they're tested for sport. We definitely have found stimulants in pre-workouts that are questionable. Most of kind of our study revelations come in heavy metal content. So you'll take a multivitamin or a hair vitamin, and it will give you more than half of your daily intake of lead in that one vitamin. So if you're eating anything else throughout the day, like most people are, right, that can give you problems down the line.
So that kind of leads into actually a question that one of a client and a friend sent me.
Sure.
I'm just going to read it. It says, does Labdoor have any contact with the FDA or other regulatory bodies when the test results of certain products don't meet their label claims / have contaminants so that something can be done about it?
Yeah. So the FDA recently spun off its Office of Dietary Supplements into its own division. I want to say that division has about 20 people, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But, this is a really big industry that we're trying to tackle. We don't currently, contact the FDA if a product is failing a test for heavy metals or on label accuracy. We kind of hope that that will get remedied in its natural course by people like you guys, looking at the site. This product is full of lead or full of arsenic or completely missed label claim on vitamin A, right? What we have had is we have had consumers look at our site, look at products that are in kind of like the big name retail stores. And then those consumers will actually end up contacting the stores and say, hey, look, you're selling a product that, has, I don't know, 1 microgram of lead in it. You should do something about this. And then that's up to the stores to decide whether they want to recall it or or do what they have to do there.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but some people say that there is absolutely no regulation in the supplement industry. And from what I've read, there actually is. But the way that it works is that a supplement I can just sell something on the store, and until you or someone else says that, hey, it's not exactly what the product says it is, that I won't face any fines, or that product won't be taken off the shelf.
Yeah, right. So it's a common misconception, right? That there is no regulation in the supplement industry. It is definitely regulated. It is not that those regulations are not heavily enforced. So this is a really big market, and I don't know that the FDA has the manpower to cover it. I think in the future, we've talked about Labdoor being a perfect front end for the FDA, in the sense that we have all this data that they would just have to go redo anyway. So what they could do is skim our site, pick off the products and manufacturers that are kind of always coming up short on label accuracy, or always having product, and then they can go test those. So yeah, it is regulated. That is a misconception, and that's how we would potentially see working with the FDA in the future.
Awesome. So that might be in the works then in the future.
Yeah, maybe.
That will give us definitely a little bit more assurance when we buy supplements. I'm gonna ask you, another question that came in from a friend on Facebook. This is actually from Robbie, who is a fan of My Protein. He wanted to know your process for determining quality, which you went over, and he wanted to know, are they Labdoor, or do they plan to break down nootropics and other supplements coming on in that market?
That is a great question. So I think I get the nootropic question at least once a day. From people who are writing into us on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, contacting us via email. That's a really complicated subject, nootropics, and it's not really well grounded in science yet. It's something that we've had internal discussions about. But I'm not sure when or if we will be testing them.
All right.
I don't know if that's a good enough answer for you, but
I guess you have to wait for the literature for it to, like in the science field, for you to actually be testing stuff.
At the end of the day, when we test a multivitamin, the research on vitamin C is out there, right? It's research that has been done in the 50s and the 60s, and it's not really changing much, right? And that's why we're confident when we can, put out those rankings with something that isn't yet grounded in science, doesn't have that research associated with it. I guess what we would not want to do is almost be misleading to our consumers. So yeah, I know it's painful, but we might have to wait on nootropics.
Thanks. So another friend asked on Facebook, he's starting his own supplement line, Spencer, and he wanted to know if he can just send his protein to Labdoor to get tested. Yeah,
so we will perform almost like a spot check, quality check. So if he wants to send us his protein, he can definitely do that. He'll be charged whatever the going rate is for the test that he wants to run, get him on a site. So we've kind of gone away from where manufacturers can kind of pay to get on a site with some of our certifications, which is why we've done away with them. Trying to basically be a little more transparent and not raise any questions about conflicts of interest, right? But yeah, if he wants to send it our way, we'll definitely check it for him and tell him what's in it.
So a company can just so is there? I guess the only income you guys have right now, because you don't have the cost for as a consumer. I don't have to pay to get anything off Labdoor.
Right.
The only income that you guys get now, revenue, is from certifications, supplements.
Yeah. So we do make some revenue on the tested for sport certifications. That's our only certification right now. I'm just a science guy, so I'm not really sure how much we make off of that certification. Our other form of revenue would be, if you like what you found on the site, you can purchase either through us or through our affiliate links. That's going to kick about 10% back to us, and that's going to go right back into the testing pool so that we can keep expanding the number of categories that we have tested.
Well, let's say someone like Spencer is starting a new supplement line and wants to have credibility right off the bat and wants to get a Labdoor seal on their product. How much would that typically or estimate of cost be for them?
That's a good question. I'll say off the top of my head, I don't know how much we charge for a tested for sport seal. Each category is going to be a little different. You can imagine that it's a little easier to test, say, glutamine versus which is just one HPLC run or one CE run versus testing protein, which is inherently really expensive because not only are we doing Keldol, but we're also trying to quantify free aminos there. So that's a good question. I'm not sure of how much the cost would be for a tested for sport seal. But if he wants to give me an email, I can definitely send that over to sales.
He said that I told him that if you guys do test his stuff, that I'll get a free jug. So Spencer, if you're listening, I'll send you my address in the DM. So this is the last question. What, as a consumer, a lot of the, I'm just talking like, I'm in Toronto, Canada. I'll go to the nutrition store, supplement store, and I'll ask for an NSF certified or similar product.
Sure.
And it'll only really be maybe BioSteel and another company at Tops that have that seal. Everything else has the GMP. What can I do as a consumer to make sure that I'm getting what I pay for?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's kind of why we're here, I suppose. So I guess the shameless plug would be to check labdoor.com. But I mean, honestly, I think we have a voice, right? We are, and I put myself in here because, I'm also the guy that's out there, buying protein and doing my research. So I would say that we as consumers really need to make our voices heard, right? We need to email these companies, get in touch with people. Another really good thing to do would just be to kind of support those products that you believe are doing the right thing. So the products that are NSF, Labdoor, USP certified. What we've actually seen a trend of recently is kind of manufacturers just collecting these certifications, right? If you go to any store, maybe a GNC vitamin shop, and check out some of the labels of these products are certified by NSF, Labdoor, USP. They've been ranked on Consumer Labs. So I think it's really an arms race to collect the most certifications to then show consumers that, hey, we are transparent. We do have good products. Trust us.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me. I know we went over a few more questions than I had planned for us, but I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions that they had answered and get some benefit out of this. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out. So
Facebook is just a Labdoor, right? And you guys are pretty good about responding on there. I've messaged you guys and I got messages back within a couple hours.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, you can email contact@labdoor.com.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Dan.
Yeah, thank you guys.